Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. I'm your host, Ed Hauber, and I'm excited to be with you today to discuss Metadata IQ from Digital Nirvana, how transcript metadata accelerates media discovery, producing better content in less time. For those of you unfamiliar with us, Digital Nirvana is a knowledge management software company. We've been in business since 1996, serving the media and entertainment, education, media monitoring, and financial markets. Our AI and machine learning solutions empower broadcasters, MVPDs, and OTT providers to create content faster and easier by way of automating the extraction, generation, and integration of various forms of metadata. Most notably, transcripts, captions, subtitles, as well as a wide variety of video intelligence data. For today's webinar, we'll be focusing our attention on a solution we call Metadata IQ. Metadata IQ applies machine learning to Avid workflows to auto-generate transcripts of live and offline assets, then indexes this transcript metadata with the corresponding media assets within the Avid Interplay and Media Central environments. This automated process of transcript data creation and integration allows Avid producers and editors to accelerate the identification, search, and retrieval of critical media assets while reducing the time, effort, and complexity of creating finished content. As a real-world case study of this technology, earlier this year, Digital Nirvana launched a commercial deployment of Metadata IQ with a global news organization involving the real-time creation of transcript metadata for 60 live news feeds. In this instance, Metadata IQ accurately time indexes real-time transcript data as metadata markers back to the corresponding media within dual Avid Interplay workgroups. This automated process of metadata generation and indexing allows for greatly enhanced visibility and access of critical media assets across the enterprise, resulting in the accelerated production of news content for broadcast, OTT, and VOD distribution. So before we go any further, I need to mention just a couple of things about today's event. First, please be encouraged during today's session to ask any questions that come to mind. In the GoToWebinar panel in the upper right, there's a questions tool for you to post any questions. We'll address any questions submitted during a Q&A period toward the end of today's session. Second, today's webinar is being recorded and a replay link will be provided via email to everyone who registered for today's event. Okay, so with those things out of the way, I'm very pleased to introduce my colleague, Russell Vigian, Product Manager of our Media Services Business Unit, which includes our Metadata IQ solution. Russell, thanks so much for joining us today. Russell, let's kick things off by stepping our guests through the high-level points concerning Metadata IQ.
Oh, thanks, Ed. Sorry. Metadata IQ is a hybrid application which functions as an intelligent software layer operating with either Avid Interplay or Avid Media Composer and MCC UX cloud environments. This is for the purpose of generating and integrating automatic transcripts from live streams as well as offline media assets. And these metadata are then time indexed as TC markers or timeline markers along with the media back into the Avid environment, where then they can be accessed globally across Avid applications that's being used.
Right, so with that said, Russell, can you walk us through a little bit about how Metadata IQ actually works?
So the latest version of Metadata IQ provides off-the-shelf integration with Avid Interplay as well as Avid Media Composer MCC UX applications for the purpose of auto-generating transcript metadata and indexing of this data to the media within Avid. Now, this hybrid solution has an on-prem application for the purpose of retrieving, transcoding, sending media to respective cloud services, and ingesting the results back into the Avid ecosystem. Right. So, and then the on-prem metadata application is configured with access to interplay web services or our CTMS APIs, which is the new addition, and the Nexus storage mount. So now from the Nexus storage mount for offline media, when any new files get ingested at the configured storage locations, also known as watch folders, Metadata IQ automatically retrieves these files as a new job and sends them to Digital Nirvana's cloud component called Media Services IQ for processing. So now once these are processed, the time-coded results are sent back to Metadata IQ, which lives on-prem, where they are reingested back into Avid as timeline markers. So in the case of our network news deployment that Ed mentioned previously, for the real-time processing, our client publishes an RTMP stream to the local metadata instance with the associated mob ID in the URL. So this stream then goes through real-time speech-to-text processing in the cloud and is then returned, formatted accurately, and then the time-coded text is streamed back in real time into the Avid as markers with the mob ID, the persistent mob ID attached. Yeah, so that's a general overview, Ed.
Excellent, Russell, thank you. So with that said, would it be possible at this point, Russell, we could take a few minutes to actually show our audience how transcript data makes media discovery and retrieval easier within the Avid ecosystem?
Yeah, I just switched to my screen for Avid MCC UX. Ed, can you confirm if you're able to see the screen?
I can see it, absolutely.
All right. So this is my internal Avid login. This is the cloud MCC UX interface. So generally, what we were discussing about watch folders. So you will see under projects, you have different. So like here, I have 3 different watch folders. So depending on the organization size and how you organize assets, you're going to have multiple watch folders. And when the asset hits any of this watch folder, everything in this watch folder gets automatically picked up by the respective Metadata IQ instance, and then send it to the cloud for processing and return the asset, the text data as timeline markers, like you see here on the storyboard, where it can come in as configurable metadata. So here I have set my instance for every 1 second, print the data every 1 second, right? So you can do it as for a minute, or 3 minutes, or 30 seconds, however your organization requires the metadata to be searchable. So the greatest part of this is now, once this metadata or transcript metadata is associated with the asset, now it all becomes searchable. So you, depending on the application that you use, either MCC UX or Media Composer, you can just control find, or you can just go search here in the cloud UX, and then search for a specific term, which could be, say, so it is going to search across every asset, and it's going to tell me how many assets have this specific mention. You can even further add more segments. Okay, I want to add more data to it and see how many assets have this. This all looks like mostly same asset that comes in. So if I want to drill deeper and see exactly where this is happening, so it opens up in the click, and on the timeline, I see everything. And if I want to see only hits, so it says there are 2 mentions of league and 1 mention of champion. And if I want to see Further in the video, now assume I have the video and I go to the hits. It says, okay, there is one champion mentioned, and there are two places there are mentions of league. So an operator basically will be able to go in here in this places, start from that point and see what clips needs to be generated based off the search from metadata. So Ed, that's essentially how the transcript metadata makes life easier for the operators.
Yeah, wonderful, Russell. Very, very powerful. And just to reiterate for our audience, all of that work happens in the Avid environment itself. Nothing happens outside of that. Operators who are used to using Avid, all of the metadata integration and all of the search and retrieval and productivity workflow happens within Avid, correct?
Yes, everything happens. Those are Avid functionalities. And,
right, fantastic. So with that said, Russell, what are the primary use cases? Can we sort of identify those, the primary use cases for Metadata IQ for our audience?
Oh yeah, some of the use cases that we have seen, I can explain. So Metadata IQ is an ideal solution for Avid-based media operators. I'll give you some examples. So organizations which deal with large volumes of contribution and field content, basically raw content. Outlets that routinely take in news feeds that lack in metadata references and that require immediate identification, accurate identification, make sure they don't miss any of the alert news feed, qualified alert news feeds. So there are also operators with media libraries, archives, basically, that lack accessibility and visibility into the nature of archive assets. So these are all examples of use cases where it can be applied. And as an additional capability, media operators with in-house transcription, captioning, or translation teams can leverage Metadata IQ to send media assets from Avid to Digital Nirvana's trans application. So that's another application from Digital Nirvana to perfect machine transcripts for permanent archive applications. So you can basically edit this marker text outside of Avid in a user-friendly UI, and then publish it back into your archive data. You can replace the speech-to-text data with a qualified data. So trans can also be used to create closed captions or subtitles for localization of content, for delivery in alternate languages, whatever. All of that trans is a complete ecosystem. So in this case, the operators do not need to create a LoRa's proxy or send it, take it outside the Avid ecosystem, send it separately to use a vendor or a user. This all becomes integrated in one piece, so reducing a lot of manual effort. So then with Metadata IQ, refined content can always be re-ingested back into the Avid environment, like I said, replacing the existing raw text data.
Yeah, excellent. A very fantastic use case, again, in large media outlets that need to preserve certain content on a permanent basis and want to have a refined, perfected transcript of that content for permanent archival. That's a really powerful use case and incorporation of the trans tool. So Russell, the media industry is beginning to recognize both the power and utility of content-based metadata for big gains in productivity and equally big reductions in time and cost to create finished programming or finished content. Can you expand on those benefits a little bit as they relate to Metadata IQ?
Sure, Ed. So large media operators process hundreds of hours of raw contribution content on a weekly basis to create a small percentage of finished content, right? So in the absence of this content-based metadata that is integrated to the media, in the production environment, producers and editors must search for and identify assets manually. Now they either listen to it. You know the manual process, the entire manual process. So now with Metadata IQ and the availability of highly accurate auto-generated transcript metadata, producers can now spend less time searching for and retrieving media assets, and now they can spend more time generating finished content, which means greatly accelerating the production process and speed to air. Now, in addition, this time index metadata is anchored to the media asset now, from ingest all the way to the man. Now, this persistent indexing of media and metadata enables global awareness across ecosystems because the metadata is associated to the media and it lives through the life. Now, discovery, retrieval, and even future monetization of existing media assets. You have large archives of valuable content, and there are hidden assets inside those. And imagine retrieval becomes easy, and it could lead to future monetization of existing media assets. So with the advent of rich metadata enhancement, content no longer stays hidden and inaccessible in large media vaults and invisible to the enterprise and untapped by users.
Yeah, absolutely. That persistent metadata attribute from ingest to the MAM is a huge piece that opens up all those possibilities. So Russell, just to recap what we've discussed so far, what are the core benefits of having integrated transcript metadata within an Avid enterprise workflow?
I should say scalability. This automated real-time cloud-based generation of highly accurate transcript metadata that does not require human resources or teams of 24/7 personnel to manually log and notate media. You can scale up, scale down, depending on your requirement. And global visibility and accessibility, that's another advantage, where all Avid media assets with transcript metadata are visible across the enterprise to identify, search for, and retrieve critical media assets based on time indexed markers. Like I showed in the demo, go to the exact point of the media and then start processing from there. So also enhanced productivity. We have seen productivity enhancements from users of this application. The ability for them to produce finished content significantly faster and easier than ever before. Improved utilization. Now awareness and identification of assets leading to better monetization, like we discussed. What is there in your archive, you never know. Once you make these video assets readable by machines, that's how it gets retrievable, now leading to better monetization and revenue generation from those same assets.
Yeah, fantastic, Russell. Thank you so much. So at this point, everybody, we'd like to transition with the remaining 10 minutes or so that we have, to a Q&A session. And thank you, by the way, for the questions you've submitted. Let me, Russell, go to the first question. This comes from Bob, and his question reads, do you have an integration with Caption Maker software? For example, can you send a clip from Media Central to your cloud, then deliver this to a captioning system? And I'm interested in your response, Russell, because this directly correlates to our Trans application for that very workflow that Bob's referring to. But I'll let you elaborate on that answer.
So today, the integration is with Trans. So the same, whatever Caption Maker can do is facilitated through Trans application. And that is the integration that we have today. We do not, to put it simply, we do not have an integration with Caption Maker. To enable that process of generating captions is what we use Trans for.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And very powerfully as well, as you highlighted earlier in the presentation. So Russell, another question that came in, and I'm not sure who posted this question, but the question is, can Metadata IQ integrate other forms of metadata beyond simply transcripts?
Yeah, sure. So We only spoke about generating speech. It can also consume different microservices from our media services, which is a cognitive layer that includes computer vision technology features like logo detection, face detection, emotion detection, object identification. And in addition to, so customers can choose whether they want to pick either one of these for their media asset, or they can request, give me speech to text plus face plus logo detection. They can choose a combination, which will then be generated and ingested into Avid MAM as a different locator. So at the instance, so for example, if the media, there is a locator, there is a logo at timecode 10.00.00, there will be a different locator for logo, and the speech to text during that will also be captured along with the same timeline. The way it is differentiated is we can differentiate it using the marker color codes. That's how we are differentiating it.
Excellent. Terrific. So let me switch to another question. Mike has a question that reads, how does search work within Metadata IQ? And again, I'm smiling because I know what your answer is going to be, but address that question for Mike. How does search work within the Metadata IQ application?
So Metadata IQ as such, the purpose of Metadata IQ is to make the transaction possible and the generation possible. So automatically extract media from Avid, transcode it on-prem, send it to the cloud, send the media asset to the cloud, generate metadata, format, timecode it, format it, bring it back into the location and ingest it back along with the asset. So that is the entire backend process. Now, for the search functionality, it is using the front-end application, the MAM or PAM that you are using. It is using the capability of the front-end application. So we are enabling Avid to be powerful to make video readable, that assets residing within Avid. We are making it readable by machines, but the search functionality as such comes from the Avid interface that you saw or any other MAM or PAM systems that you use.
Right, very good. So another question that came in, this one from Brent said, can Metadata IQ be extended to other MAMs and other vendors or other brands other than Avid?
Right. So currently, our full integration is with Avid, and we are working with to make this possible the same way possible with other certain MAMs, including Adobe or Final Cut. That is work in progress. But simultaneously, all of this metadata generation capability is available over APIs. So if you have your own existing workflow, you can use our APIs to consume these services and get the metadata generated in the format that can be ingested back into your MAM and PAM. But a direct integration is not yet completed.
Right, right. Avid was the first, more to come, likely at NAB of 2023. At least that's the intention at this point. And we'll have more to talk about at that event next year. The last question that I see here for today, Russell, comes from Tony, and he asks about customization of timecode and the timing reference to finding a clip quickly, and how does the accuracy of the timecode reference to the media and getting to the place where an operator needs it to be. Can it be customized, and how does that process work with timecodes?
Right. For the additional elements, that is video intelligence, the face, logo, everything will be printed exactly on the timecode. So because we generate the timecode of every element at the instance where it occurs. And in terms of speech to text, again, this is like I mentioned earlier, this is a customizable marker segment. So in the demo, I was showing you all the markers appearing in 1 second duration as markers. So so every word, simply put, every word that comes out of the speech-to-text engine is time coded. Now, we can either go up, say, give it word by word, or give it to you in 1 second, 10 seconds, 30 seconds. So then if it is 30 seconds, then the system will have more context in terms of search. So you can search, you can use multiple search terms to get into one specific marker.
Fantastic. And here's a question I'm going to ask because this has come up in discussions we've had with other prospects in this arena. And that question is, can Metadata IQ, can the service itself process assets from not only the Avid PAM, but also the Avid MAM? Can you address that quickly, Russell, in a minute or two that we have left?
Yeah. So in Avid, with the current integration using CTMS API, we are now able to take in assets from Avid MAM as well, Avid PAM as well as Avid MAM. As long as there is an identifier, you retain the mob ID that we can associate the metadata with. We can do it from either MAM or PAM.
Excellent. Yeah, fantastic. Russell, thank you. With that last question, we're essentially out of time for the half an hour that we've allotted for today's session. In addition to my colleague, Russell, I'd like to thank everyone who's attended today's presentation, and thank you also for your questions. It's been an absolute pleasure for us to share with you the latest advancements and metadata generation and enhancement for Avid workflows. To learn more about Metadata IQ, as well as our transcription, captioning, subtitle, and video intelligence and compliance monitoring solutions, please connect with us at sales@digitalnirvana.com or via our website at www.digital-nirvana.com. We look forward to personally connecting with you, and we'll look forward to seeing you in our next webinar. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.